The cameras always showed perfection, flawless homes, cheerful smiles, and seamless renovations. But behind the scenes, Drew Scott's real life told a very different story. At 47, the beloved Property Brothers star is finally setting the record straight, confirming the whispers that have followed him for years. From unexplained production pauses to personal struggles that never made it to air, Drew reveals a journey filled with unexpected challenges, hidden pain, and moments that nearly broke him. This isn't just about home makeovers, it's about the truth he's kept from fans for far too long, until now. So, what's really been happening behind the polished scenes and perfect reveals? And why is Drew Scott finally opening up now? The truth is more personal than fans ever imagined. It all begins in 1978, in Vancouver, Canada, where Drew entered the world alongside his identical twin, Jonathan. From the beginning, they were more than brothers, they were inseparable. Best friends, teammates, and creative partners, the Scott twins shared not only birthdays but a powerful bond built on shared dreams, relentless ambition, and mutual support. Their journey wasn't just one of talent, it was shaped by a strong foundation at home. Their parents, Jim and Joan Scott, laid the groundwork with values of discipline, creativity, and drive. But perhaps the biggest influence came from their father, Jim, whose own life was far from ordinary. Before choosing a quieter path, Jim had carved out a thrilling career as an actor and stuntman in the film industry. The boys grew up surrounded by behind-the-scenes stories of movie sets and larger-than-life performances. Entertainment wasn't just something they watched, it was in their blood. And from that early exposure, a fire was lit in both Drew and Jonathan, one that would one day lead them to transform not only homes but the hearts of millions watching around the world. While Jim eventually stepped away from the limelight to focus on his family, the influence of his creative spirit never left the Scott household. For Drew and Jonathan, their father's past wasn't just a fascinating tale, it was a spark that ignited their own ambitions. But Jim wasn't just a storyteller. He was a mentor who believed in grit, self-reliance, and building something from the ground up. He taught his sons that nothing worth having comes without effort. From a young age, Drew and Jonathan were encouraged to be independent thinkers and hands-on learners. Jim didn't hand them shortcuts, he gave them tools and expected them to build. By the age of 7, that lesson had already taken root. The twins were brainstorming ways to earn their own money, not through allowance, but through entrepreneurship. At 8, they launched their first business, handmade, nylon-wrapped wire hangers. They crafted them carefully and sold them door to door in their neighborhood. It may have seemed small, but for the Scott brothers, it was a moment that changed everything. When one neighbor placed a bulk order, they got their first real taste of success, and more importantly, the power of creating something from nothing. That experience was far more than just pocket change, it was a foundation for the business empires they would eventually build. That early taste of success lit a fire in the Scott brothers, a fire fueled by creativity, determination, and the belief that they could shape their own future. It wasn't just about earning money, it was about proving to themselves that their ideas had value. While real estate would later define Drew Scott's public image, his first true passion was performance. The spotlight called to him long before television cameras ever did. As teenagers, Drew and Jonathan naturally gravitated toward the world of entertainment. With a former stuntman and actor as a father, the stage wasn't foreign, it was practically in their blood. School theater productions and local performances became their training ground, and Drew especially thrived in the spotlight. But even then, they blended passion with purpose. They didn't just act for applause, they turned their performances into profit. In one of the most unexpected chapters of their youth, the brothers trained and worked as professional party clowns. Dressed in colorful costumes and armed with balloons, jokes, and juggling skills, they brought joy to children's parties, and pocketed cash along the way. It was quirky, clever, and a perfect symbol of their blend of hustle and heart. Although it may sound humorous, it gave them important life lessons about self-assurance, interpersonal relationships, and quick thinking. These early appearances gave Drew the confidence he needed to perform in front of large crowds, which would be useful for television much later in his career. Drew understood the value of schooling even as his enthusiasm in performing grew. In order to concentrate on his academics, he decided to take a sabbatical from acting. He enrolled in the University of Calgary, as did Jonathan. It was a significant move that demonstrated Drew's commitment to laying a solid basis for his future. He maintained his artistic attitude throughout his time in school. He still gave performances when he could. However, he was now beginning to consider how he could make a life and create a secure future. As it happened, all of these experiences, from acting and business to overcoming obstacles, would soon combine in an unexpected way to permanently alter his life. Stay tuned because we'll go into detail about how Drew's time in college brought him directly into the real estate industry, despite his ignorance that it would eventually lead to his rise to fame on television. The shift in Vancouver. They were forced to start their first real estate endeavor. Jonathan and Drew rented a dilapidated home close to the campus. They had a better idea than just living in it. They made the decision to repair it and lease it to other students. It was their first attempt to make money by remodeling a property. Work was difficult. After all, they were still enrolled full-time, but the result was worthwhile. More significantly, they discovered they had a knack for real estate and ultimately made money from the rental. Something was ignited in them by that initial flip. Before long, Drew and Jonathan started searching for additional residences to remodel and resell. They gained experience bit by bit. They gained knowledge about budgeting, how to find a good deal, and how to make improvements to homes that would increase their value. They soon realized that real estate was more than just a side business. It was becoming a real enterprise. The journey wasn't always easy, though. The brothers frequently had to deal with real estate agents in their early transactions. Sadly, a few of these encounters left us feeling let down. Some of the agents, in Drew's opinion, lacked the consideration and integrity he had anticipated. Is him to a significant choice. They required complete control if they wanted to continue working in the real estate industry. Drew put a lot of effort into his studies and obtained his real estate license. This provided him with the means to manage their transactions and manage each step of the procedure independently. The brothers agreed to formally establish their relationship by 2006. They started their own business, Scott Real Estate. The objective was straightforward. Purchase houses, make repairs, and then sell them. Real estate, however, remained a fallback option for Drew. Acting and entertainment were still his passions. He decided it was time to pursue his real goal once more after helping launch the business. After giving Jonathan the most of the duties, Drew returned to Vancouver to pursue acting once more. For Drew, coming back to Vancouver was an exciting occasion. He had the opportunity to finally dedicate himself to his greatest passion, which was being in front of the camera. He started going to industry events to expand his network and took acting workshops to hone his abilities. He wanted to meet producers, casting directors, and anybody else who might be able to assist him get a big part. He was all in, intent on becoming a successful actor. However, pursuing your dreams is not always simple. Drew was talented and determined, but he wasn't seeing the desired outcomes. Roles were hard to come by in the competitive entertainment industry. Furthermore, living bills and acting workshops were piling up. Without a reliable source of income, Drew started to accumulate debt. That was a difficult period. By leaving the real estate industry, he had taken a chance. And now he was having trouble making ends meet. Given this fact, Drew realized he needed to act wisely. He was determined to continue acting. However, he was also unable to overlook the financial strain. He therefore took a decision that would alter everything. He opened a second branch of the business in his new location, Vancouver, bringing Scott Real Estate to the community. He was able to earn money while carrying on with his real estate business, which he already knew how to perform successfully. In Vancouver, Drew had to start over and work hard. To find properties, assemble a team, and attract clients, However, it was successful. The new branch prospered, and Drew at last achieved equilibrium. He was now attending acting classes or auditions whenever he could and doing real estate transactions throughout the day. Although it wasn't simple, it offered him security and an opportunity to continue pursuing his artistic ambitions. Drew continued to pursue his goals. He combined his passion with wise decisions, adapting and continuing on his way. And the chance of a lifetime would soon arise from that combination of skills. You'll want to remain here. We'll then explore how Property Brothers became a huge hit after an unsuccessful reality program concept. Property Brothers Inception. That huge opportunity began to take shape as a concept for a television program. As Drew and Jonathan carried on renovating houses and expanding their company, they also started to consider more carefully how to tell their narrative to a wider audience. It seemed sense to try presenting a show that could combine their expanding real estate and entertainment knowledge. Realtor Idol was the idea for which they made their first serious pitch. It was based in part on well-known talent competition series such as American Idol, but instead of singers, real estate brokers would compete in various tasks. Although it was a novel concept, producers weren't entirely sold on it. The emotional aspect of home renovation and purchase that viewers typically identify with was not captured by the format. Thus, the concept was shared. Shortly then, another idea emerged. My Dream Home is the name of this one. Its emphasis was more intimate and sincere. The program would follow a real estate agent who helps families locate and renovate their ideal houses on a tight budget and schedule. This rendition seemed more relatable and significant. Initially, Drew was supposed to be teamed with a female co-host after being chosen to host it. But as things progressed, Drew came up with a better plan. He introduced the producers to Jonathan, his identical twin brother, who was not only a member of his family but also a talented contractor with years of renovation experience. He clarified that the two had a remarkable relationship and had been working together for years. They had the ideal set of abilities in addition to being close. Jonathan handles design and construction, while Drew handles real estate and negotiations. The producers thought the concept was fantastic. There had never been anything like it. Together, the twin brothers are assisting families in renovating their homes and making them into their ideal homes. It gave the presentation a playful and original dynamism. Furthermore, the idea was strengthened by the fact that they were both seasoned professionals in their domains. The format of the performance then changed once more, and this time it worked well. The vision became evident when the title was changed to Property Brothers. Usually a fixer-upper, Drew would assist families in finding the ideal house within their means, while Jonathan would oversee the remodeling to make it their own. They would work together to create a stunning finished home and an unforgettable experience. In 2011, Property Brothers made its HGTV debut. Additionally, it resonated with viewers from the first season. The topic of the broadcast extended beyond restoration and real estate. It dealt with real families, genuine hardships, and real changes. The emotional highs and lows of the home buying process were shown to the audience. They observed as plans had to be modified, building dates became tight, and budgets were put to the test. Every episode concluded with that wonderful huge surprise, of course. The first time a family entered their new ideal house. Drew played an important part. He negotiated the best prices, showed each family properties that fit their needs, and helped them comprehend what they could afford. From there, Jonathan took over. Utilizing his practical knowledge and design sense to oversee the refurbishment. Their collaboration and organic banter gave the performance a real, unstaged vibe. One of the primary factors that attracted viewers to each new episode was that chemistry. Its powerful imagery, practical knowledge, and poignant narrative made Property Brothers an immediate success. It made the Scott brothers famous and laid the groundwork for their eventual full-fledged media empire. They were no longer merely TV hosts or real estate agents. They were leaders in the industry, entertainers, and full-fledged brand makers. Drew's H Emergency. Viewers began to detect something out of the ordinary in 2019. The frequency of Drew's appearances on the show had decreased. He was less prominent in certain episodes and completely absent in others. Speculation started among fans. Did Drew and his brother Jonathan have a relationship? Was there a dispute that led to conflict on the set? Had Drew made the decision to permanently leave the show? Eventually, Drew thought it was time to address the growing number of queries. Drew told the truth in a sincere public declaration. For more than a year, he had been dealing with severe health problems. Family drama had nothing to do with his diminished appearance on the show. The true cause was far more serious and far more intimate. Drew clarified that he had begun to have odd symptoms that didn't appear to fit together. It felt like the flu at first, but instead of improving, things gradually became worse. He struggled with flu-like symptoms, such as extreme weariness, bodily aches, and deep fatigue. Gradually, he developed gastrointestinal trouble. Additionally, he had a severe sensitivity to heat, which made it very challenging to work in a studio or on outside restorations. No one could tell him what was wrong, but he knew it was something. For a long period, there were no definitive answers despite Drew seeing multiple doctors and undergoing numerous testing. That was perhaps the most annoying aspect. Unaware of what was taking place within his body. Finding the best course of action was challenging in the absence of a diagnosis, and the ambiguity only made his physical misery worse. After months of trying out, docs in the end suspected mercury poisoning as a probable cause. There has been additionally situation that he became stricken by continual fatigue syndrome, a situation known for its deep, long-lasting exhaustion that does not enhance with rest. Those conditions defined a lot of Drew's symptoms, but they nevertheless came in not using a smooth restoration. Physically, Drew turned into struggling, but emotionally, it turned into even tougher. For someone who had constantly been full of life and driven with the aid of ardor, having to gradual down was enormously tough. He could not movie the way he desired. He couldn't be there for each episode. He felt like he was letting human beings down, despite the fact that none of it became his fault. At the start, Drew saved his struggles mostly non-public. However, through the years, he found out that staying silent became no longer supporting him or absolutely everyone else going through something similar. So he spread out. He took to social media to proportion what he was going through, posting sincere updates approximately his symptoms, treatments, and emotional ups and downs. Enthusiasts replied with overwhelming help. Many had additionally confronted mysterious or invisible illnesses and will relate to the disappointment of being unwell without a clear rationalization. Others have been definitely moved via Drew's honesty and bravery. Via sharing his health conflicts so publicly, Drew gave others permission to talk approximately their very own struggles and no longer feel ashamed. His posts regularly spoke approximately the concern and isolation he felt, the toll it took on his mental fitness, and the way he leaned on family and close pals for energy. He explained how frustrating it turned into not to be on top of things of his body and how vital it turned into to speak up whilst something doesn't feel right. Via this tough time, Drew became an recommend for invisible ailments, conditions that won't be apparent on the out of doors, but are very real and very painful. He reminded his lovers that we by no means truly understand what someone else goes via, and that kindness and endurance can move a long way. Ultimately, after months of rest, treatments, and professional aid, Drew's fitness commenced to enhance. His body slowly regained electricity, and the worst symptoms commenced to vanish. He did not bounce back overnight. It became a protracted technique, however he changed and decided to go back to doing what he cherished. With cautious fitness control and the support of docs, Drew made a full healing. He turned into sooner or later able to get lower back to filming Property Brothers and other related indicates. Fanatics have been pleased to see him return to the display screen, smiling and joking similar to old times. His go back to TV wasn't just a non-public victory. It turned into a second that confirmed viewers the electricity of resilience. Despite how hard the beyond 12 months had been, Drew did not surrender. He driven through the ache, stayed hopeful, and got here again more potent. On account that returning, Drew has continued to percentage well-being recommendations along with his fans. He talks approximately the significance of normal checkups, being attentive to your frame, and no longer being afraid to slow down while wanted. For fans, he is now not just an actual property expert or television host. He is a person they could look up to in an extra-personal, relatable way. He additionally thanked his brother Jonathan, who carried the show at some point of Drew's absence. Their bond, which had continually been a strong part of Asset's brothers, regarded even stronger now. The health crisis reminded them and their fans how important it's far to guide each different via hard instances. Meeting Linda Fan. Drew Scott may be acknowledged round the arena as one half of the Belongings brothers duo, but backstage, he is additionally a dedicated husband and father. His journey in love and circle of relatives' lifestyles has been just as significant as his TV profession. And similar to the whole thing else he does, Drew has taken this part of life seriously with care, endurance, and coronary heart. Drew met his future spouse, Linda Fan, in 2010 in La on the Time. He turned into attending a Toronto Fashion Week occasion being held in La, and Linda happened to be running there. They ran into each other at a bar for the duration of the event, and something clicked right away. Each of them shared a robust love for journey, creativity, and adventure, and the verbal exchange flowed without difficulty. Linda stood out to Drew, not just for her looks, however for her impartial personality and sense of humor. She didn't care about superstar or reputation, and that turned into clean for a person like Drew, who became starting to end up more recognizable from his work in actual estate and on-screen. Linda became running as a creative director and task capitalist and not using a hobby in getting into the highlight herself. That balance among them turned into a part of what made their connection paintings. As their dating grew, Linda ultimately began supporting with the in-the-back-of-the-scenes commercial enterprise of Scott Brothers Amusement. Her innovative background shaped nicely into their manufacturing corporation, and she supported lots of their tasks together with her eye for layout, advertising, and emblem improvement. Drew and Linda dated for 8 years earlier than getting married. They took their time building a robust courting based on communique, shared values, and mutual assist. For the duration of those years, Linda had become extra worried with Drew's world, including supporting manage enterprise efforts and journeying with him to shoots. Nonetheless, the couple remained personal and down-to-earth, while their public exposure elevated. In 2016, Drew proposed to Linda during a dinner date at home. It wasn't flashy, however it was heartfelt, exactly what's suitable their personalities. The engagement turned into met with warm pleasure from lovers, and 2 years later, the couple got married in one of the maximum memorable weddings in HGTV history. Their wedding passed off in May additionally 2018 at a stunning region in Italy, surrounded through friends and own family. The ceremony turned into intimate, romantic, and glad. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a party of the whole thing that they had constructed together over almost a decade. The occasion changed into featured within the special TLC documentary, Drew and Linda Say I Do, which allowed enthusiasts to peer an extra non-public aspect in their lives. The documentary accompanied them through wedding ceremony arrangements, heartfelt moments, and the real ceremony, giving visitors a glimpse into their deep bond. In 2022, Drew and Linda entered a whole new chapter, parenthood. They welcomed their first toddler, a child boy named Parker James Scott, in May also of that year. The couple have been open approximately their choice to start a own family, and when the time got here, they were pleased. Parker's beginning became shared with fanatics on social media, and Drew spoke openly approximately the pleasure and duty of turning into a dad. Fatherhood changed Drew's existence in many ways. He pointed out how his priorities shifted with circle of relatives turning into the primary awareness of his existence. Regardless of a busy filming schedule, ongoing protection projects, and commercial enterprise responsibilities, Drew made it clear that being gift for his son and wife became the maximum important issue. Drew has also shared the emotional aspect of becoming a figure. He frequently posts about the simple joys of spending time with Parker, whether or not it's making a song lullabies, changing diapers, or simply watching him analyze and grow. He's pointed out the project of balancing work and circle of relatives, however also the importance of placing obstacles and growing first-rate time. Drew and Linda are greater than only a couple. They are a group, each in my view and professionally. Whilst Drew frequently appears on digital camera, Linda prefers to paintings behind the curtain. However, that doesn't suggest she's any much less concerned. She's had a huge impact on the creative path of Scott Brothers Entertainment and has helped form their logo through the years. In spite of their repute, the couple is known for preserving an easy and down-to-earth lifestyle. They enjoy quiet evenings at Domestic, journeying as a family, and spending time in nature. They keep away from the Hollywood party scene and as a substitute awareness on what subjects most, every other, their son, and the values they share. Drew Scott confirms the rumors. Currently, Drew and Jonathan Scott regarded together on Sirius XM's famous show Andy Cohen's Stay. It regarded like an ordinary chat among pleasant siblings, but things quick were given exciting. At one factor, host Andy Cohen requested a question that stuck both brothers off guard. If I seemed into both of your financial institution debts, might I see the equal sum of money? Turns. At the beginning, Drew and Jonathan joked round, retaining the tone mild. However, as the query sank in, they realized it hit on something deeper. What commenced as casual banter took a severe turn while Jonathan paused, then responded definitely. It became clear that this simple question became approximately to expose extra than listeners anticipated. Jonathan became the primary to break the playful temper. He shared a shocking truth. For the duration of the early seasons of Belongings Brothers, he turned into on set 3 times greater than Drew. Even as Drew could seem on the begin and cease of the show to introduce the undertaking and close the episode, Jonathan stayed continuously through the full system of renovating homes. After 10 years of this recurring, Jonathan eventually felt like he had to talk up. In the future, at some point of filming, he asked Drew a loaded query. Have to I perhaps receives a commission 3 times what you receives a commission? That second become telling for enthusiasts. It was one of the clearest glimpses but into the behind-scenes commercial enterprise of the hit show. Jonathan's question wasn't only a passing comic story. It became sincere and direct. It confirmed how his developing frustration about the imbalance had reached a factor wherein he should not live silent. Drew spoke back speedy and firmly. You are in no way allowed to convey this up again, ever. His tone became playful, however there was a clear boundary in his words. Drew then explained why, pronouncing he turned into the one who treated the contracts, the negotiations, and all of the criminal info behind the curtain. In his view, that work carried its very own value, one which wasn't as seen, however changed into simply as critical. Even though Drew's reaction sounded firm, it changed into additionally honest. He turned into now not dismissing Jonathan's feelings. As a substitute, he was attempting to reveal that there has been a stability to their partnership that wasn't obvious on digital camera. Yes, Jonathan worked harder on site, however Drew turned into managing the business side, managing banks, networks, and prison teams to ensure the show moved forward. Their banter that day wasn't dramatic or emotional. It turned into informal. Yet, beneath it, there has been a clean message. This wasn't just a funny second. It became an actual anxiety that had built up over years running collectively. Even of their mild-hearted change, lovers could feel how deeply they cared about each other and the way complicated sharing a creative profession with a sibling may be. For years, lovers on occasion questioned why Drew appeared much less gift for the duration of preservation scenes. Some speculated approximately a probable rift among the brothers. Others questioned if Drew changed into being paid extra because of his higher visibility or position in negotiating offers. Until the Andy Cohen live interview, maximum of this became just speculation. However, when Jonathan unfolded, the brothers confirmed the rumors. There has been indeed a difference in filming time and profits. And it wasn't just part of conventional behind-the-scenes paintings. It became in trouble they had to talk about as partners. What made the moment special changed into how they treated it. There was no hidden drama, no public argument. They replied calmly with honesty and humor. They failed to stay away from the question and that they did not try and spin it both. In that moment, They showed adulthood, acknowledging tension however no longer letting it fracture their courting or confuse their target market. They addressed it head-on, proving that trust and transparency can coexist even in lengthy status partnerships. If you loved this video, ensure to love, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you in no way leave out an update for your preferred stars and their inspiring journeys.